How's it going, everyone, and welcome back to the shop. It feels good to be back. And I thought I'd kick things off with a special project that I've been talking about for at least the last 2 years, and that is modifying my Victorinox compact. Now, we all know that the compact is the best Swiss Army knife ever made, and very well may be the best kind of EDC multi-tool that you can carry. So we're gonna be throwing some Micarta scales on this thing, or at least I'm gonna try to make some Micarta scales for this thing, and I'm gonna fix the one problem that I have with the compact. So for all the love that I have for the compact, there is one glaring issue with this knife, and that is the Parcel hook. I've carried this knife non-stop every day for 3 years. I've used it every single day for 3 years, no joke. And I have used the Parcel hook twice in all the places I've gone and all the things that I've done. So I'm going to try to replace the Parcel hook on this thing with a screwdriver. Now I cannibalized another Victorinox for this screwdriver. I'm not even sure if this is gonna work, so we might have to custom make a screwdriver out of something we have laying around in the shop. But nothing to do but do it. All right, we've got the tools of our deconstruction or reconstruction, however you want to look at it. So you may be asking yourself, what makes the compact so great? Well, as I take it apart, I can tell you all about it. So first off, you have the toothpick, which sounds really, really silly, but I don't really have great teeth. And so the toothpick I use all the time. That's why I said I use it every single day. Along with the toothpick, you have the Ballpoint Pen, which is just an amazing little thing to have when you don't have a pen on you. I carry a journal every single day, and so having the pen is very helpful when I've lost, broken, or otherwise mismanaged the pen that I usually have in my pocket. And then finally, as far as the scales go, you've got a set of tweezers, which just comes in generally handy in life, and you've got this nifty little metal pin that comes in the scale as well. And the metal pin paired with the tweezers makes for a really incredible sliver pulling kit. So if you're working with wood a lot like I do, these two bad boys come in handy very often. Also, that little pin can be used to reset routers. It can be used to reset your phone or pull out a memory card out of your phone. Just like a million little uses for that thing. One time I actually used that little pin to repair a flip-flop that I was wearing. So you know the bottom of your flip-flops have that little plug and that'll break and then the toe thing pops off and the flip-flop is rendered completely useless. Well, I was traveling and I was doing some laundry at a laundromat, so I had my flip-flops on, so I was washing all my socks. And the flip-flop broke, so I actually took that little pin and I pushed it through the bottom of the piece that goes through the hole in your flip-flops, and totally worked. I had to bend the pin back with a pair of pliers later, but 100% worked and held my flip-flops together while I finished my laundry. So just really, really handy tools that accompany the Victorinox compact. Cool, got them off perfectly. Everything's great. So these like plastic scales that Victorinox puts on these, they've got these little like holes milled into them. And then those holes correspond with these pieces here on the inside of the knife. So those holes snap on essentially to these brass pieces you see here. And this is the pin that we're gonna be attacking right here because we will be removing this Parcel hook. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little nervous. This is the knife that I've carried for 3 years straight, and I really don't want anything to happen to it because me and this knife have been through a lot of stuff together. Now, you may be asking yourself, Zach, why don't you just replace the corkscrew? Who uses a stupid corkscrew? And you'd be right. So there's a corkscrew here, and it would be really easy to put this screwdriver in where the corkscrew goes because that's exactly where it came from. There's another knife that doesn't have a corkscrew and has a screwdriver instead. The only issue that I have with that is this little screwdriver right here. So this screwdriver nestles into, see if you guys can see that good. This little screwdriver nestles into the corkscrew on the compact, and this thing has come in handy a ton for a bunch of different reasons. The number one reason that I use it for is for my glasses. This is a perfect glasses screwdriver. So I always have it in my EDC kit because I always have the compact in my pocket. So while I don't drink wine and I have no other use for a corkscrew, I do have a use for a mini screwdriver holder, so the corkscrew has to stay. All right, for our next step, we're gonna try to have a win before we potentially have a loss. So I've got some really nice green micarta right here. This is my favorite color of micarta, and micarta is my favorite handle material. And we've got our scales, so it should be pretty easy just to trace out a little line here on the scale, take it over the bandsaw, cut it out, and then we can start considering all these little intricacies inside of the scale And that's where things are gonna start fun. All right, whenever I do projects like this, where I'm tracing something and cutting material out of something else, I always try my best to utilize the material as efficiently as possible. So that way, if I mess up, and it's very likely that I'll mess up, I've never done this before, I'll have more material to have more tries with. So lots of trying there, but hopefully we get this first go. Bandsaw has some sort of technical difficulty. Hold please. Well, I found the culprit. The guides for the blade are like missing somewhere. They're not in here. So that's a fun thing to find out while you start a project. Take care of your tools, kids. You just never know. Since I'm really anxious to get this project moving and I really don't want to take the time to figure out what's wrong with that bandsaw, we're just gonna escalate things a bit and we're just gonna go straight to the table saw. That's right. I have no idea if this is gonna work, but we're gonna find out together. I think what I'll do is I'll just try to cut the straight lines out and then I'll use the sander to get to the marks that I made for the scales. So it feels like a good plan. Let's see. Okay, I put my finish blade on. So this is like for finish wood and stuff. So it's not supposed to tear up material as badly. And then we're just gonna go a little wider than our other cuts and we'll try to go right down the middle of this thing. We'll see how that goes. Then we'll cut this off as well, provided that we, 1, don't cut our hand off, or 2, don't completely ruin the micarta. So let's see what we can do. All right, not too bad. I think that's gonna do the job. So we'll get that cut a little bit closer to the line, and then, yeah, get these bad boys cut out. All right. I'm a little concerned what might happen if I finish that off in the saw. The saw might take it and kick the piece and completely ruin it. So I'm going to finish that off by hand, and then we'll do a little bit of shaping with the belt sander. What we're going to be trying to do is I'm going to try to sand this down to shape. I don't think I'm going to round it out too much right now, but sand it down to shape where I can just see just a little bit of that Sharpie. Because if I can just see a little bit of that when I am shaping it, that'll give me a little more leeway for making all my accessories work. Because I'm going to be 100% honest, I have no idea how I'm going to make those accessories work yet. So I'm trying to give myself as much wiggle room as possible. So yeah, let's throw on the old sander. Okay guys, check this out. I'm pretty stoked. So you can see there, just the slightest bit of hangover when this is perfectly centered up. So you can probably see this piece here obviously needs to be cut out. Since the bandsaw is down, I'm more than likely gonna use the Dremel to accomplish that. And then we've got these alleyways inside of the scales as well, right? So this is where different like accoutrements go from the knife. So for example, right, like the pen, right, goes in that hole right there. So I'm gonna have to figure out how to replicate these lines on our new scales so that we can get those put in, and Dremel will be useful for that. And then I also need to get these holes put into the new scales as well, because we're gonna epoxy these on, but we still have to get around these big pins that we're holding the old ones on. So the real fun begins. Right, I'm pretty happy with how this scale finished out for that cutout for the corkscrew. You guys can see there, not too shabby. So now I'm trying to figure out how best to get my lines in the scales here for holding all the accessories. So what I'm thinking is that I'm gonna figure out where these points are, the attachment points to the knife, and then transfer those points to my Micarta scale, and then I can use them as a guide. So if you see this top one right here, right, it guides the pen and it guides the toothpick, I believe is what goes on this side. Toothpick and pen. So if I can get this hole sorted, then I can kind of figure this out and then, you know, fake the trajectory. I don't know. We're kind of just going by feel on this one. So I'm gonna figure out how to transfer these pivot pieces, and then we'll get our accessories put. All right guys, check this out. So these holes here, I was trying to figure out how to transfer them. I tried a couple different things I wasn't super stoked on, and then I found out that the 3/16 drill bit is a literal perfect fit for these holes. So I'm gonna drill these holes out, then I'm gonna mark from the outside to the inside of the scale, then I'll know where my holes go. All right, quick change of plans. We're gonna have to perfect our Micarta scale to our plastic scale before the lineup of the holes is gonna go right. So I was trying to leave myself just a little bit of leeway so that towards the end of the project I'd have, you know, a little bit of playroom in case something goes wrong. But we're gonna have to just gonna have to send it, full commitment. It's looking like a thing. I think we've got a successful transfer. So there's pins on this side. That's from this one. So you can see how they should line up opposite, like that, see? And here's the pins on this one, lined up there. And then to give you an idea of what we're trying to do, right? So you can see these brass pins that are kind of holding the Victorinox together, the Swiss Army knife together. So if you look at the pattern on that, and then you look at the pattern on that, so right, boop, and then we're gonna just kind of notch that out so that we, oh, had it backwards. We're gonna just notch that out so that it'll go on without, you know, any spacing issues. Ooh, also that's starting to look like a Micarta Victorinox. So can't get too excited. Got a long way to go before we know there's success, but I'm feeling hopeful. We're now ready to start plunging into the Micarta. So I'll show you a really cool tool that I like for my Dremel. This is a Dremel Plunge router. And it's pretty cool because you can set depth on it, and then you can use the router, you can like set it on your workpiece, right? Set the depth to whatever so that your end mill doesn't go any farther than it's supposed to, and then you can just move it around and do whatever you have to do. So we're gonna set the depth for our holes, and then we're going to test fit our scales to our knife, and then we're gonna figure out how to transfer these accessory canals that we have in the back so that we can keep all of our awesome accessories that make the compact just the best knife. Just wanted to make a quick note that when you're doing this type of work, especially, we're kind of working by braille here, meaning we're not working with the exact measurements. We don't have a CNC machine. You just want to go slow, take your time. It's like a haircut, right? You can't put it back after you've cut it off. So, pro tip. Okay, so my battery died while I was trying to get this to fit, but check this out. So, got all the holes in the right place. And actually, it's pretty tight. There's a little bit of scale movement there, just a little bit, you know, because we were gonna be exactly precise, but pretty dang happy with how that went on. And look at that. It almost has a scale on it. So all we have left is to route all that stuff. So that's gonna be real interesting, figuring that out. But I'm gonna take this success for what it is and be really stoked that that scale, for all intents and purposes, is on. Scale number 2, all reamed out, happy, ready to go. I think I'm gonna stay on scales because I'm real nervous about pulling these pins. So we're gonna get these scales 100% before we start cutting into this knife. Now, the scales are actually really ingenious, which isn't surprising. I mean, you know, Swiss Army, Victorinox, they've been doing this for a long time. They've been, you know, making these very same tools for a really long time. So I don't know if I can show you, but I'm gonna try to show you guys this really quick. So you can see here, here's the Victorinox scale and here's my scale. Now you can see this is where the tweezers come in, so no big deal. I've got space and everything will work out just fine there. Now one thing that's interesting though, and I don't know if you guys will be able to see this very well, is there's actually a difference in depth here. So this thing goes from narrow up top to thicker in the middle to more narrow at the end. And I'm sure that's because these are sprung, right? So they have a little bit of a belly to them. So when they go in, when the knife's backing it, that spring, that sprung action, keeps the tweezers in place without them falling out all the time. And obviously these scales are completely worthless if I can't get it to do something similar. So it's got kind of a dropped valley to it. So I think what I'm gonna do is get the flat part, and then for this drop valley here, I might just try to freehand it. I think we got something that resembles what we wanted. Had a little hiccup here with the old Dremel, but overall, got ourselves a nice line. It's not on the show side, so I'm not too worried about it being a little ugly. The big thing that matters is that we go in and we get nice flat and flush, and then this doesn't go farther than it should. So I think we're good. Obviously there's some shaping that has to happen on the top here. That's why you'll see the discrepancy with being able to get the tool out. That's gonna be a huge thing we're gonna have to do when we start shaping. But overall, pretty happy. I think I'll probably use a disc to kind of square up this hole a little bit. The hole's just a little more round than I'd want it to be, but I think I'm gonna have good retention for this tool. So this one was a good one to learn on because on our other scale, we literally have 3 tools we gotta do. So I'm just gonna start rocking away. One really cool thing about taking stuff apart and making it your own and just working with your hands is seeing how stuff works. So it's really cool. I've always seen on these toothpicks, there's like this little, like, I'm gonna put my finger pointing to it. There's that little hump that you guys can see there, hopefully. And so inside of where the toothpick goes, there's actually just a tiny little recess inside right here on this side of the scale. And that is meant to go in and it locks the toothpick in. So you can see right in here. It's crazy. It's like the coolest thing. And you know, how are we gonna recreate that using our eyeball and you know, a couple hand tools? Not quite sure. But I can really appreciate all the thought that went into keeping these implements tied into the scale. And like I said, it's just one really cool thing about doing stuff on your own, doing stuff for yourself, figuring stuff out. I mean, I might crash and burn here, but I'm gonna have learned a lot about how these things works, and it's stuff that can be applied to who knows what in the future. So I just really love working on stuff. Now let's see if we can get a straight line. We're not gonna win a ton of awards for pretty, but it is straight, and it even has the little bump. You can, you're probably not gonna be able to see it. It's like really tiny. I can barely see it. But I did get the little bump in there for the piece. Now you'll notice that our line is going through this hole. That's for one of our brass pieces here on the compact. So these holes ended up just a little bit bigger, obviously because we're just gonna epoxy this on. We're not trying to actually press fit the micarta because it wouldn't work. Also, we don't have a CNC machine, so there's no way I'm gonna get it that perfect. So you can see with this in that we clear just fine. So the scale goes on. I can't pull that out right now because I haven't rounded the top off, but the scale goes on and the toothpick is in with no gaps. So we clear the hole just fine, and 1 down, 2 to go. This next bit is the pen, which is a rounded recess. So far we've been dealing with just square ones. Square is pretty easy, you know, just use the end mill, but we're gonna be doing this rounded hole now, and I do have somewhere, I don't know where it is right now, but I do have a round bit for the Dremel, which should do the job. I did run a practice on it, and so that's kind of what we're gonna get. I didn't put a straight line or anything, I just used it really quick to see if the pen would fit. So I think that that should give us the right width for the pen. And then, you know, just like we've seen with all these other things, there are some sneaky little ways to have the pen retain itself. So I think what we're gonna go for, which shouldn't be hard, is a little bit of a crooked line. So when the pen goes in, it kind of hits the walls of each side, and that will press fit the pen in. And we got a pen slot. Pretty proud of this one. So just a tiny bit of pen still exposed, so we get a little bit of pressure. And I made it so that it's just a little off. So that would be straight. See how it's a little off? So it has to go in there, so it's got a little tension to it. So I think the pen is gonna be super solid. And also, look at how professional that one looks. Man, getting better and better each one. Now comes the nerve-wracking one, and this is the pin. Absolutely have to have the pin. Now the cool thing about my pin is my pin's already like really warped, so I'm fine with trying to get more of a straight line. This is why this one, I've saved this one for last. So this is the slot that the pin goes into. You see that little tiny slot right there? And that has to go right here. Now I'm not sure, I mean this is probably just injection molded or something at Victorinox. What I'm gonna try to do is I'm gonna try to use a cutting wheel. It's like literally the exact width of this hole. So I'm gonna try to run a cutting wheel sidewards and eyeball the depth. I think I'm just gonna run it straight as I can because my pin is pretty crooked, and if I get a new pin, I'll just put a little kink in it and that should hold the pin in just fine. I'm not really worried about losing that because I've got the corkscrew there and I've got the little screwdriver there. If it is a little loose, kink the pin just a hair, should be fine. So remember how I said I was just gonna cut it straight and not try to get fancy? I lied. So I'm looking at the way that the retention works on this pin, and it's that little bitty hump right there in that line. So I've marked it off here and I've scribed the line that I want to put, and I actually have two different grinding discs. So I have a much thinner disc and then I have a much thicker disc. Now I know for sure you can't tell the difference by me just showing you, but they are just a bit different, and I should be able to recreate this pinch point that Victorinox put in at factory if I don't just cut the whole scale in half. So yeah, I just have to. I have to try. Like, you don't know unless you do it, so I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go ahead and call that a success. So it looks like the pin goes in, goes all the way. We didn't cut anything off or out. My pin is a little bit crooked, so should work. And yeah, there she is right there. Now this puts us at an interesting impasse. Now we're at the part I've been the most scared of. I can't test how the pin works with the scale on because I've got this brass head in my road. That is the pin that I have to cut to try to get our Phillips head screwdriver on. So we are there. We are at the moment of truth. I think the scales are gonna work. They just need a little bit of shaping at this point because, you know, I want it contoured, just more comfortable in the hand. Can't get the tools if everything's squared up, so we'll have to contour those. But the moment has arrived. So this is my plan. I've been looking at this now for a while. Kind of while I've been in and out doing these scales, I've been thinking a lot about how I want to do this. So the only reason that I care about this corkscrew is to hold my mini screwdriver. And the screwdriver itself that I stole off another Victorinox, I can bias it in one direction. So I can pin it here, and then it will bias in to the inside, which is what we want because we want to be able to we don't want to have to mess with the side of the scale. So I think what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to cut the corkscrew down just enough that it will still hold the screwdriver, because that's all the corkscrew is a screwdriver holder. And then I'm going to cut this liner out of the road, flatten this thing up as much as I possibly can, and the hope is that with the corkscrew closed, cut and trimmed, and this closed, that the screwdriver will close over the top of the corkscrew so that the corkscrew and the screwdriver can both open independently, and I can have a full Phillips number 2 head on this thing. So that's my mad scientist plan. I'm really excited about the scales. Honestly, if I only get as far as the scales and I mess up, I'll have a pair of scales to throw on another compact. But yeah, it's time for surgery. You know the old adage, measure twice, cut once? That is real. I live my life by that. It doesn't just cutting anything, just check twice, do it once. So little pro tip, when you're doing anything like this on the grinder, it's always a good idea to grab your pieces and line them up and make sure you know which side is the bad side, which side is gonna go away. So in this case, I want the screwdriver to bias in towards this way. So I'm gonna set it like this, which means this side of the screwdriver will clear our scale, no issue, and well, hopefully no issue. And then I'm going to flatten this side. So for me personally, I know I'm just sitting here telling you about it. Between now and the time that I just move over to the grinder, I could forget. So I'm just gonna make a black mark, and because I was Jack John, I'm gonna just double check that, make sure that is the side that I want to cut. So I've got my screwdriver on this way, I've got it biased correctly, and this is for sure the side that I want to flatten up to that number 2 Phillips head. So measure twice, cut once. Well, I'd say we are pretty dang close if we're not right there. So I'm feeling pretty good about the width of it. This will allow me to kind of just soft set it and then determine what we're gonna do about that corkscrew length and, well, at this point it's not a corkscrew, our mini screwdriver holder length, and see if we need to take that head down anymore on this, because technically I can go all the way to this like little triangle piece right here, that little hill. I can actually grind all the way to there because that's what makes it a number 2. So I think we're at a good point. We can just soft set and see where we land. Stop the presses. Here I am in my shop, you know, just laboring away, just basically pounding rocks together, willing this compact to come together, because I've wanted to do this for a long time. And what does Jamie send me? Other than my good buddy Peter McKinnon just did a custom compact. Because of course he did. And he did it with Dutch Knife, Daily Custom Shop, Raven the Pirate, just absolutely stellar dudes. All, you know, Pete, all these dudes, super stellar. It's like I think it's titanium. It's got his logo, his Pete's Pirate Life logo on it. They acid washed all the tools. They replaced the corkscrew on the compact, not the parcel hook. So I'm gonna say, I don't know, I think I'm doing it the right way here, but you know, just beating me to it. Pete, thanks. I'm sure he won't see this video, but I DM'd him and I was like, dude, it's so cool. I'm doing one right now. So yeah, whenever this video comes out, chances are you've seen this amazing compact. So I'm interested to know, would you replace the parcel hook or would you replace the corkscrew? Let me know down in the comments. This is just beautiful work. Congratulations to all the dudes who put together this epic knife. Yeah, I guess I'll just pick up my sledgehammer and get back at it. I'm gonna try to make this work. So the bottom of the parcel hook is rounded, and there is a round nesting in the spring where I want to put the screwdriver. However, I'm thinking that once I'm pinned and the screwdriver is opened, I'll have a little bit of a weird open and closed action, but I think that I'll still have the same retention when I'm open, and I'll have good retention when I'm closed. I won't know until I pin it, which is a little hazardous. I really don't want to be pushing this pin in and out any more than I absolutely have to, because I don't have another pin. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut the liner here where I was anticipating cutting it, so that I can drop the screwdriver all the way in, and then maybe I can find something in the shop to fake pin this screwdriver and just kind of see how it will react under tension with the spring load and everything. So as you can see, it won't close all the way. I knew this was gonna happen, I was anticipating this. So I'm gonna cut the liner of the knife so that the head of the screwdriver will clear, and then we'll see how much that interferes with the corkscrew. So I kind of blacked out there for a while on the grinder, but I think we just did it. I think that is a Victorinox compact with a Phillips head screwdriver in it. Now I haven't pressed the pin yet, of course, because I'm still kind of figuring stuff out. But one other cool thing is I think the corkscrew will still fit, no problem. So I'm going to test that out a little bit. I definitely can't get, at least not with the pin not in, I can't get the Phillips head screwdriver open with the corkscrew down. So I probably will still shorten up the corkscrew just a little bit, not nearly as much as I thought. But yeah, the comes up to the top. And also, this is real ugly right now. Don't worry, we'll make it pretty. But I had to take a little out of here, and I had to take a little off the spring as well, because the spring was contoured to fit our parcel hook. So it ended up being quite a bit of work to get this thing to fit, but I think we're there. So I'm gonna just do a little bit of final fitment, make this not look, you know, so bad. It's gonna look a little bad, but not make it so bad. And then try to piece this thing back together. Got it all polished up. Now it looks like something that could, you know, look half decent. Now you'll notice the shape is a little bit weird. That shape is intentional. Every little wobble in it is to make it fit into the spot that I put it in. And then I went ahead and cleaned up the cutout as well. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and try to pin it now that it looks like a tool, and just see how it works fully pinned. We might be pulling the pin, but from just my test fits, it felt really good with using this all kind of as a fake pin. Everything felt tight, everything felt right. I knew the action in between closed and open was gonna be weird, so the walk, for you traditional guys out there, the walk was gonna be a little strange, and I'm okay with that. You know, it's a trade-off. You add something, you take away something, there's always a little bit of a trade-off, and I'm okay with that trade-off to finally have a Phillips screwdriver on my compact and literally make this, I think, the best pocket multi-tool out there now. I'm removing the one limitation that it's always had for me. So I'm gonna pin it, see if it still wants to play, and then if it still wants to play, I think we're shaping scales and putting some epoxy in. Whew, 2 years of dreaming is gonna come true. Check it out. Okay, so I did end up cutting down my corkscrew just enough so that I can still close without my little screwdriver there getting in the road, and I can open my Phillips head without putting up the corkscrew now. Very excited. So the walk's a little weak, as I anticipated. It's not horrible, just a little weak, but it's got pretty good engagement, pretty good torque there at the top. So, I mean, it is like properly locking out, which I did not expect. Honestly, it's square, the other one's round. I wasn't sure. So it was a nice thing to find for sure. So I'm just gonna start shaping some of these scales, and I'm really stoked. So hopefully I don't mess anything up. All final fit and finish is done, and I'm really excited. Like, I am like giddy excited. So I'm gonna wipe all of this down with water so that our epoxy will adhere correctly. And then I'm gonna go ahead, I didn't have any lacquer in a quart or anything, but I've got some spray lacquer. I'm gonna go ahead and put some lacquer on these accessory holes as well. You know, some of this micarta is a little thin, so it may not last, but for version 1.0, very excited. So I'm gonna get everything cleaned up, get it lacquered, get the epoxy on and clamp it. The next time you guys see me or this knife, it's gonna be looking epic. Oh man, am I excited. I've been wanting to do this for so long, and there it is. And honestly, like, it turned out a lot better than I thought it was going to be 100% honest. So really excited about the fit and finish. Everything feels great in hand. It's nice and light still, just like the plastic scales, except it's micarta, which is the best material. And now I've got the Phillips screwdriver. I am so excited. Let me know down in the comments if you guys have any questions about this. I'll make sure to keep you all updated on Instagram on just how it holds up. I'm a little interested with how thin some of the micarta is in certain areas. As we all know, you know, micarta is just, you know, layers of material, so it'll be interesting to see how long it holds up or how well it holds up. But for now, I'm excited. Put this thing back in my pocket, and excited you guys followed along. Thank you so much for watching. It really means a lot. Consider hitting subscribe if you're into this type of stuff. Make sure to turn on notifications, and just leave a comment. I'm always down in the comments, love to chat. And yeah, catch you on the next one.